we got some really interesting polling information here. So David Coletto posted this. He's the CEO of Abacus Data, of course. And I'm just going to read you his post here. And he says, what are the top perceived issues facing Canada? The rising cost of living dominates the national agenda, far ahead of every other issue, followed by concerns about the economy and healthcare. Younger and older Canadians look at this list very differently. Those under 30 put far more weight on job security, housing, inequality, and immigration, while climate change sits close behind. Don't worry, the kids will learn. Older Canadians focus more on the economy, healthcare, and the risks they associate with Donald Trump's administration. The gap between generations is wide and reflects two different lived experiences. Younger adults feel squeezed by affordability and opportunity. Older adults worry more about stability and external threats. The divide explains a lot of Canadian politics at the moment, so we're going to get into these numbers. Now, before we do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps grow the channel, and I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. So let's get into these. There's a couple charts here. It's this list continued. So the rising cost of living, that was around 62-63%. It's continuing to increase. The Conservatives on this specific issue are way ahead of every other party. So that's good news for the Conservatives, is that people aren't buying this whole narrative that Mark Carney is going to spend a bunch of money and therefore we're going to have a better housing market and a better job market, etc., etc. They're not buying what he's selling. The economy is number 2 at 39%. Healthcare, 35%. Donald Trump and his administration is down. It was back up for a little bit. Now it's back down to 34%. As this decreases, so will Mark Carney's popularity. And that's what he's got to deal with. This is one of the biggest reasons, Donald Trump is one of the biggest reasons Mark Carney won. And the fact that this is not becoming, or it's becoming more, people are putting it more on the back burner than these other issues. Cost of living, the economy, and healthcare are above it. Housing affordability and accessibility is right below it with 33%. Immigration's at 25%. That's been growing for the last year or so. Crime and public safety only at 17%. I don't really get that one. Job security and unemployment, it's up to 16%. Then we're going to move over here. Job security and unemployment. Canadians under 30 more focused on. So job security, housing affordability, inequality, and poverty, immigration, and where's the climate? They mentioned that. Oh, it's minus 1%, so it's really not even that big of an issue. Now, Canadians 60 plus more focused on, it's the economy, healthcare, and of course, Donald Trump. And that's why Mark Carney, like this number here, if this goes away, Pierre Poilievre wins the majority. But because so many of our older citizens were convinced that Mark Carney is now the best guy to deal with Trump, it flipped a lot of swing voters back over to Mark Carney. Obviously, these boomers who were at least willing to vote for Pierre Poilievre or willing to vote Liberal decided that Justin Trudeau wasn't the guy to deal with Trump. They also didn't really like Pierre on the issue too much, but Mark Carney, this rich, old, white man that Liberals are supposed to hate so much, they decided that's their guy. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way the numbers broke down. Now, I've also had a theory that as soon as Mark Carney gets a deal with Donald Trump, they're going to play it off as such a great deal. The mainstream media will absolutely help them. Mark Carney will rise in the polls, call an election, and win a majority. That's my fear. However, if Trump's no longer an issue and there's a deal done, then this number is going to decrease from 34 like way down to here. Maybe it won't even be a double-digit issue. I don't know. But it's very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 5-6 months. Because Mark Carney's popularity, if he's not very, very careful, could hit the gutter. Which by default will make Pierre Poilievre more popular in the whole preferred prime minister polling information, where you're seeing Mark Carney is way ahead. But he's way ahead right now, but he does not have the same time that Justin Trudeau had. Canadians decided to give Justin Trudeau a very long time to ruin the country for some reason. But he's gone, and the country's a mess. Mark Carney's got to fix it. He will not. And Canadians, sooner or later, are going to figure out the truth.